Podcast. Presented by XFL2K.com. With your host, Tron Hawkins.
Welcome to This is XFL Podcast. I'm your host, Tron Hawkins. Once again, history is made today. The inaugural XFL 2020 schedule came out, and it is so beautiful. It's finally real now. You know, we got players, we got team names. The only thing we're missing is jerseys. We know who's going to play where and when. We know how the playoffs is going to happen, how the championship game is going to happen. Not what the championship game is going to be at, but how it's going to be. It's going to be a great time come February 2020. We're just a little over 3 months away from it. Just looking at the schedule and seeing the logos and the ats and all that stuff is just epic. Some really good matchups. I'm going to go over today, some of the matchups, who's, at an advantage, who's at a disadvantage maybe, how it's kind of laid out, plus, where each team falls and what channel they come on and all that stuff, what days they play on. So it's going to be a pretty interesting episode. Not going to be too long, but it's going to be a fun episode, and we're finally getting to the meat and potatoes of the XFL. There's no more speculating. This is real stuff I'm talking about now. And it's wonderful to have something to talk about. So I'll be right back after this, and we're going to get started with this really fun episode. So let's talk about week one. That's what everybody was wondering what was going to happen, who's going to play who. And it kicks off 2 o'clock on ABC, February 8th. It's a Saturday. It will be the Seattle Dragons at the DC Defenders. I think it's a great idea to start with this matchup. Jim Zorn comes back to DC, where he used to coach the Redskins, against Pep Hamilton. That stadium's going to be rocking. They should fill it up. I mean, it's one of the smallest stadiums. It's not the smallest stadium in the league. So a good matchup. Audi Field's a beautiful place. I think it's a great way to start the game. And then you got the 5 o'clock nightcap, week one, the Wildcats at Houston. Great matchup there. LA's got a pretty good defense on paper against that Houston offense that's just going to be wide open, even though we don't know who the quarterback's going to be yet for Houston. So that makes it kind of exciting. We'll find out more during training camp how that's going to go down. And like I said, I'll break these games down more in my week one preview. I'll break every one of these games down in my preview. And then maybe the week before the season starts, I'll do a power rankings of the team. Or when training camp starts, I'll do a power rankings of the teams. A lot of stuff coming your way on this show. So this is where it gets interesting. Sunday, February 9th, you got the Vipers at the Guardians. I think it's interesting. New York getting a home game in February. Same with DC. We could have snow weather. This could go one of two ways. One, it's a cool visual to have a blizzard going on during your opening weekend. Two, though, how good will the quality of football be if the snow is coming down in just bunches? So it's going to be interesting to come, opening weekend, see what happens there. And then the nightcap for the whole weekend, St. Louis and that wonderful defense against Dallas. St. Louis has it hard in the first 2 weeks, and I'll get into that in just a minute, but what a way to cap it off. Bob Stoops, great coach against Jonathan Hayes, who used to coach under Bob Stoops. And you got Jordan Ta'amu against Landry Jones. Just great matchup all around. And that's my game of the week one. Can't wait to see that in the nightcap on ESPN week one. Week two sees the Guardians at DC, so it's the second straight week. DC's at home, this time against a divisional foe. But it's the 2 o'clock game on ABC again. The nightcap that night at 5 o'clock. Vipers at the Dragons. So Seattle will play 2 Saturdays in a row. Vipers come in on 6 days rest. Sunday, 3 o'clock. What a matchup this is going to be. LA against Dallas. So LA plays Houston and then Dallas. And then St. Louis plays Dallas and then Houston. And St. Louis and Houston's the nightcap at 6 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. Again, that defense for the Battle Hawks, a lot of people think it's going to be the best defense in the league. Going to have their hands full the first 2 weeks. Very interesting matchups for sure for St. Louis. I think the game of the week for week two, to me, to me, I'm just not excited about the Vipers. Like the week one game against the Guardians, I'll watch it because it's XFL. Not hugely excited for it. Same with week two against Seattle, I'll watch it. Not hugely excited for it. I think Dallas and LA is going to be a war. Probably be the game of the week two. Week 3, February 22nd, you got Houston at Tampa. That's Tampa's opening. And you got Dallas at Seattle at the 5 o'clock game. Good matchups all around. 5 o'clock game, the Guardians go to St. Louis for their home opener. That's going to be awesome to see St. Louis rocket. I'm kind of amazed that due to the weather situations in the East, that St. Louis don't get a home game the first week or first couple weeks. Maybe they don't do that due to the weather. I know they're playing in Texas, so I'm sure they're not worried about the weather the first 2 weeks. But still, you'd think maybe New York would go to St. Louis week 1 or something. But St. Louis is going to get to do good enough soon enough. But you think St. Louis week 1 would be there, just for all the stadiums rocking, and then a huge matchup, the 6 p.m. game on Fox Sports 1, Sunday, February 23rd. The DC Defenders at LA, two of the powerhouse teams I think. Two great coaches, Winston Moss, who's a great character, against Pam Hamilton, humble. You got a big mouth against a humble guy. Cardale Jones against Luis Perez. Great matchup that week. Week 4. LA travels across the country to New York. It's the only time they play each other, do the cross-division play. Seattle at St. Louis. Wonderful matchup there between two young quarterbacks, Brandon Silver and Jordan Ta'amu. And then Sunday, March 1st, circle your calendars. It's the game everybody's been waiting for. Houston at Dallas. The first of 2 times they play. We'll get to the second time here in a little bit. Great matchup there between Houston and Dallas. That's the game people's had circled since they announced the cities back December of last year. And then the 7 o'clock game on ESPN2, the DC Defenders at the Tampa Bay Vipers. Cardale Jones against Aaron Murray. Should be a pretty good quarterback battle if Aaron Murray is the quarterback. We'll get into that in a later episode. And then we're on the week 5, March 7th, the Seattle Dragons at Houston on ABC. Great matchup there. And then the Guardians go to Dallas on March 7th. Week 5, like I said, I'm just not excited about the Guardians in Tampa. I don't know why. The team just don't excite me, but that's be some pretty good matchups. And then Sunday, March 9th, what a game it's going to be. St. Louis at the DC Defenders. I think that will be a preview of the Eastern Championship game, Eastern Division Championship game. We'll talk about that in a minute. I think that's going to be a wonderful game. I think that's probably going to be the best game of that whole week. And then the only 9 o'clock game that I know of on the schedule, I may be wrong, I'll look ahead. On ESPN 9 o'clock out in LA, we knew the 9 o'clock game was on there. We knew it had to be a West Coast team and an East Coast team going there. It's going to be the Tampa Bay Vipers at the Wildcats. So you got Mark Chessman's offensive genius against Winston Moss's defensive mind. Well, good game there. And then we go to week 6. We have Houston at the Guardians at 2 o'clock on ABC. June Jones against Gilbride. Just a good matchup out in New York. New York, I think the crowds will get better if the team's good and if it gets warmer, of course. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Guardians' attendance first few weeks. I know they're only opening the 100 sections there, but I can see Houston doing good there. And then 5 o'clock game on week 6 on Fox Sports 2. I think it's one of the only games on Fox Sports 2. Then the season is going to be the St. Louis Battlehawks at the Vipers. Again, Chessman against a good defense. That's going to be an interesting game. And then here's the marquee game to me of the whole season. Sunday, March 15th at 4 o'clock. It is the Dallas Renegades against the DC Defenders. Could possibly be a XFL championship game preview. And then at 7 o'clock on ESPN2 in Seattle, it's the Wildcats against the Dragons, which could be a battle for first place in the West. West to me is more wide open, even though we got Dallas and Houston there, than I think the East is. I think it's going to be interesting and more interesting in the West. So LA and Seattle could go a long way to figure out who's going to be in the playoffs later on in April. Here we go to week 7. And week 7 is actually the last week of inter-division play, which we'll get into in just a minute. Dallas at Tampa Bay, week 1. This whole week is inter-division. So you got Dallas at Tampa Bay at 2 o'clock on ABC. And then the big one, the one a lot of people thought might happen week 1, it's LA at St. Louis. Even though it's not NFL related, LA stole St. Louis's team, they think, even though St. Louis kind of stole away from them first. It's a big, it's a big hoopla. But we know Moss and Hayes don't like each other. Moss, I'm sure they like each other, but Moss talking about how when they used to play football against each other, that he would hold him all the time. So it's pretty interesting there. That's going to be a great matchup in the Dome. Dome's going to be rocking for that. That one's one to circle on your calendars. And then you got the Guardians, Gilbride heading to play Jim Zorn, and the Dragons. And then the night game, which could also be a championship game preview to me, is the DC Defenders at the Houston Roughnecks at 6 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. I love that game. I think DC is the favorite in the East. Again, I'll talk about that when we get to the playoff. And then the last 3 weeks are division play, and this is interesting. The last 3 weeks is all division play. That means maybe nobody will be out of it till week 8, or people are out of it till week 8. That means week 8, 9, and 10, we're guaranteed to see a preview of the playoffs. Either way. We'll get that in just a minute, how the playoffs are set up. But on March 28th, it is Tampa at DC in the East, Saturday's East games. And then that Saturday night on Fox, 5 p.m., St. Louis at the Guardians. So that whole day is just East playing each other. And then on Sunday, March 29th at 3 p.m., it's going to be Houston at LA in another division game, and Seattle at Dallas. So that's all. Saturday is Eastern Division, Sunday is Western Division. Then you go into week 9. Thursday night, the first of 2 Thursday night games, Dallas at Houston. So you get your marquee game Thursday night on Fox, prime time, a couple weeks before the playoffs. This could be a Western Division championship game preview 2 weeks out of that game. So it's pretty interesting. Saturday, April 4th, you have the DC Defenders at the Guardians. And then Tampa at St. Louis, 12 o'clock, a noon game on April 5th. And which Tampa was going to be away that day because that is the day of WrestleMania at their stadium. And then at 6 o'clock on Fox Sports 1 is Seattle at LA. Here's where things get kind of weird. The next Thursday night game is also Dallas. I think they're just building this whole league around Dallas and Bob Stoops, I'm being honest. I think Bob Stoops is the marquee coach. Landry Jones is the marquee player. That's why they're having 2 weeks in a row. It's not really fair that LA plays on a Sunday. They only get 3 or 4 days rest. Dallas gets a whole week because they played the Thursday before. So that's, so that's when the West play. The West plays that Thursday, LA and Dallas. That Saturday, the West finishes up the season. Houston at Seattle. And then Sunday, it's a flex game to be determined. I guess it's really according to who's going to be in the playoff hunt. It's DC at St. Louis at 3 and Guardians at Vipers at 6. I'm thinking ABC is going to get the bigger game, and the times might change from ABC and Fox Sports 1. 3 o'clock for DC at St. Louis, 6 o'clock for Guardians at Tampa. But it says games to be determined, game time to be determined. I think that's going to be the only time all year we can have a flex situation. The bigger game might be last, or it might be one of those things where somebody might clinch and have to wait for the other one. Like it's going to be interesting to see how that works. So we get to the playoffs. The playoffs are Saturday, April 18th and Sunday, April 19th. April 18th is the Eastern Division Championship game. It's Eastern Division 2 at Eastern Division 1. So the division champion, well, not really the division champion, but whoever finished first gets to host it. And then Sunday, April 19th at 3 p.m. Both games at 3. One's on Fox. The West Championship game's on ESPN. It's West 2 at West 1. And here's my prediction. In the Eastern playoff, it will be the St. Louis Battlehawks at the DC Defenders. And I had the DC Defenders going on to the championship game. In the Western Division, I have the LA Wildcats at the Dallas Renegades. The reason why I don't have Houston in there, the quarterback situation is kind of up in the air. I think LA is going to have enough defense to win the second seed, and I have Dallas winning that. So it's going to be 1 versus 1, and I had the DC Defenders beating the Dallas Renegades for the championship game. Now that might change when I do my season preview next year sometime, early next year. But that is my predictions for now. It's going to be a 79-day sprint, it says, to the kickoff, starting February 8th when the DC hosts the Seattle Dragons. So some interesting games. In a minute, I'm going to go through and kind of talk about how many, what channel each team plays on and how many times and stuff like that. Like I said, short episode, fun little episode. Tell me what you think. Who do you think will be in the 4 teams in the playoffs? Let the conversations begin. We can actually talk about this stuff now, and it's really exciting. So when I break this down by channel, I'm going to start with the Houston Roughnecks. This is off the XFL website. They're scheduled to play 5 games on ABC, 2 games on Fox, and 3 games on Fox Sports 1. So, of course, they're going to, put June Jones out there as much as possible. Then we go down to St. Louis. St. Louis is scheduled to play 3 games on ESPN, 3 games on Fox, 2 on Fox Sports 1, and 1 on FS2, with the last game airing on either ESPN or Fox Sports 1. And I don't know why I don't say this about Houston, but it said the Battlehawks will play on Sunday for the first 3 weeks of the season and 6 times overall. St. Louis will play Saturday on 4 times and will not appear in either Thursday night game. Again, I don't know why I don't go into detail like that for the Roughnecks. The next team is LA Wildcats. National audience will see the Wildcats 3 times each on both Fox and ABC during the season. That's all it says. If you want to know more of a breakdown, just kind of go up and look at their schedule and see. They play on Fox. They play on Fox and ABC 3 times. Fox Sports 1 twice. ESPN twice. So that's what the kind of schedule looking at. They're going to be on the bigger channels. 3 nationally broadcast games on the big networks. And that's a lot. That's just because they're the biggest market. LA, one of the biggest markets. So the Dragons are scheduled to play 4 games on ABC, 3 on Fox, 2 on Fox Sports 1, and 1 on ESPN 2. Seattle will play on Saturday the first 5 weeks of the season and 6 times overall, completing the regular season against Houston at home Sunday, April 11th. The Dragons will play on Sunday 4 times and will not appear in either Thursday night game. So that's how they're broken down for the Seattle Dragons. So you can kind of tell that the bigger markets get the bigger games. Like Dallas is going to be everywhere. Houston's going to be everywhere. LA's going to be everywhere. It said Dallas will be the lone team to play in both Thursday night games. So they've got the 2 primetime games right there. And scheduled during the season, finishing the regular season at Houston against the Roughnecks on April 2nd before hosting Wildcats on April 9th. Overall, the Golden Gauge will have 5 games on Sundays and 3 games on Saturdays, in addition to the 2 Thursday night contests. 4 games will be on Fox, 3 on Fox Sports 1, 2 on ABC, and 1 on ESPN. So, I mean, they're going to be all over the place. It's the Bob Stoops factor. It's Bob Stoops, Lindsey Jones. They're the favorites to win the championship, even though I have DC Defenders winning it. Again, that might change in my season preview come January. Next is the Guardians. Again, New York, we'll see how they do. National audience will view the Guardians on ABC 5 times with additional appearances on ESPN and Fox is what it says. So I'll just scroll up here and kind of look. They'll play on Fox 3 times, ABC 5 times, ABC maybe even 6, according to how that goes in the last week of the season. And ESPN once, it looks like. So again, the big market gets the big games. Them and LA gets kind of the bigger games because of where they're at. And Dallas gets the bigger games because of Bob Stoops. That's just how it is. Next is Tampa Bay. They get to host first 7 o'clock game of the year when they host the Defenders on Sunday, March 1st. So that's interesting on ESPN 2. It says that they're going to be on ABC at least 3 times with multiple Tampa appearances on ESPN and Fox. The kickoff time for Tampa Bay's regular season finale against New York will be determined by March 11th. So by March 11th, we'll know the final games of the season, because that's when they're going to kind of figure out what games they want to end the season on in the Eastern playoff, pretty much Eastern mini playoff that last week of the season. So DC, to me, the favorites to win this. So their schedule is ABC, Fox Sports 1, ESPN 2, Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports 1, ABC. So the Defenders is not on Big Boy Fox one time during the season. They're not on Big Boy Fox or Big Boy ESPN any. They're on ABC, which is big, and then Fox Sports 1 and ESPN 2. So it's kind of interesting how some teams don't get to be on Fox any either. I wonder who, come up with a schedule to kind of figure that out. Who's gonna play where. So that's it for the schedule. Week 1 is very interesting. You got Jim Zorn going back to DC. Weather can be interesting. LA gets a late game against Houston. 2 interesting teams there. One with a great defense, one with a good offense. The Guardians get a home cold as hell game against a warm team like Tampa. So that's interesting that they decided to do that. And then St. Louis gets to go to Dallas. We get to see Bob Stoops and Landry Jones in the week 1 against the new St. Louis team in Globe Life, which is going to be beautiful. So Aldi Field and Globe Life gets to be on display week 1. When I did the stadium ranking back in one of the first episodes, those are the top 2. So I can't wait to see what they look like on TV that first week. Again, I would have not put New York week 1 just because I don't know how people's going to show up in the cold for that. I would have did maybe St. Louis won the games, but I am so excited for this. I can't wait to break this down more. The next episodes will be me going over the teams. Dallas is first. I wanted to get this in. I have a plan on what I want to do, but then, stuff comes out like the schedule and stuff, and I have to do it when it comes out. So even though you might hear me saying, oh, next is going to be Dallas, they could come up with the playbook tomorrow, and I'll have to do something on the playbook. But I am so excited for the XFL. Thank you for listening to this episode. Leave me comments on my Twitter and Facebook, and on the Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. Let me know what you think of the show, what I can do better. It's just me and my headphones and my phone in my studio, aka my kitchen. But I'm loving doing this for y'all. So I enjoyed the support. A lot of listens on the last 2 episodes. I am proud of this podcast. I'm proud of this league. Everything's coming together. Not only is the league getting better, I'm trying to get better too. They're giving me stuff to talk about. It's wonderful. I can't wait to dig in. I can't wait for the weekly previews, weekly reviews, game day, raw, uncensored podcast. I plan on doing that. I plan on unedited game day preview or game day reviews that night, and hopefully reviews on Sundays. Like I said, I'm gonna watch the games as I can. DVR is my best friend. When you got a kid, you're gonna have to just watch it when you can, because I'm sure all the guys out there know your girlfriend's gonna drag you places on the weekend. But I'm gonna watch all the games, and I'll make a damn good podcast for y'all. So thank you for listening. Like me on Facebook at XFL Podcast. Check out XFL Newsroom. Check out our Discord. Just check us out. Let's be a big community.